I want to share with you how I make my maps. Okay, I know all those clips are super fancy, but I need to tell you, it wasn't always this way. I used to be very not good at making maps. Like, look at this first map I ever made back in 2012.
A Foreign Service officer in the field.
It pains me to look at that and to hear my voice, and I'm trying to sound all cool and casual. You gotta start somewhere, I guess. From that time on, I was 24 years old, I poured myself into learning After Effects, the software that I used to make maps. I devoured tutorials, and I got better and better at making maps to tell the types of stories I wanted to tell. And that's what this video is. It's sort of the result of many, many years of refinement. So today what I'm gonna do, talk a little bit about my journey in map making and the evolution of my style. And then I'm gonna dive into two different workflows. One is a workflow that requires a $200 plugin, which is expensive, and I used to not be able to afford that, and so I'm also going to teach you the workflow that doesn't include that plugin. A workflow that I used for years. Even at Vox I used it for a long time for map making. I don't use it anymore because it's less efficient, but I want to teach you both workflows so you have both options. And using the workflow I use currently, I will show you how I make an animation like this. And all of this I'm going to do on a laptop that Intel sent me. So everyone's heard of Intel, but this computer that they sent me has this Evo badge on it, which is their brand new 11th gen processor. The major highlight of this thing is that it is lightning fast. It provides an insane amount of speed. And by the way, there's a link in my description that you can click to go learn more about the 11th gen processor and Intel Evo overall. Go click that link, it supports this channel, but also teaches you a lot more about how this stuff works. Intel sent it to me, asked me to try out one of my heavy workflows on it, see how it works, and that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna take you along on the journey. But first, story time. So after I made that first map back in 2012, the next year I graduated from college, moved to Washington, DC, and got a job at a think tank where I made map stories for them. That's where I really started to refine my map making workflow and learn how to use maps to tell a variety of different stories. To show data, to show historical trends, to draw different types of borders, to use it as a creative tool. And then in 2014, Vox was born, and I got rejected from Vox, tried again, got accepted, and then started working there. I brought this map making workflow to Vox, continued to refine it as I told all sorts of stories. Eventually I started going out into the field and shooting sort of mini documentaries using maps to help complement those stories. The series, after all, was about borders, and I found a need to draw really specific borders in a really specific way, to show data in a really specific way. And so I had to upgrade my whole map making workflow. This all came to a head in the last season of Borders, which was Borders India, where I had to take a bunch of physical maps from the partition of India and translate them into the digital space to tell this really important partition story. I tell you this whole story, number one, because I want you to know that I wasn't always good at maps. I was once very bad at maps, and through a lot of practice, got better, okay? So there's some hope in that. Number two, I want you to know that there's a lot of refinement and work that has gone into the workflow I'm about to share. So just know that this isn't something I just sort of pulled out of my hat. This is something that I've been polishing for years. Okay, without further ado, let's do this. So what's fascinating to me about this whole thing is that for the years that I've been developing this workflow, I have always worked on these like big beefy computers. The fact that I'm sitting here with this computer that is a little bigger than a tablet in terms of how light it is and how nimble it is, and the 11th gen processor gives you the power to take on this workflow is wild to me. It is wild, and it's sort of proving my age here. Like I'm sort of like the old person being like, back in my day, we're not. So as I promised, I'm gonna show you two workflows. The one I did for many, many years that doesn't require any plugins. It just requires After Effects, the Adobe animation program, which is a program that is enhanced by this processor. Then I will move on to the one that requires the $200 plugin called Geo Layers. If you wanna just skip to that, to the Geo Layers part, go to the time code that is here on screen and you can skip to it. But if not, let's dive into my original workflow. One of the cool things here is that Intel actually works with Adobe to make sure that their hardware works most efficiently with their software. So they like collaborate. My original workflow is simple. It has to do with two main ingredients, After Effects and a file called Jenkins. This is a file that I refined for years. It's an Illustrator file that has all of the countries in the world that are layered out. Not all of them are layered out, but a lot of them are. And that is very high resolution in that you get some really nice detail in all of these countries. You can Command A and get all of them selected, and you can change the stroke if you want. If you want the borders to be like a dark gray or something, you can do that. It takes a minute because, well, it doesn't take a minute. That was very fast. This is a big file. It's got a lot of data in it, and this is what makes this first workflow tick. This file is free for all of my patrons. I have a bunch of people on Patreon who support me, and this is a perk that I'm putting up right now on Patreon. So if you want this file, go sign up on Patreon. Let's talk about how this works in After Effects. I want to bring this into After Effects. I'll leave it open in Illustrator, and I'll show you why in a minute. Bring it in, and it's going to ask me right away, do you want this to be merged in as one piece of footage, or do you want to make it a composition and have all the layers editable? For now, I just want footage. If you were doing something that had a lot of different layering of countries and you needed to make all the countries different colors or whatever, then you could make it a composition because it's all layered out. But for now, it's just a big piece of footage. Take that big piece of footage and put it into a new comp. We'll call it Map the Old Way. This is my old style, 1920 by 1080. Make sure this is like, 3 minutes or something. And you bring it right in. Okay, this is vector, so you can zoom in as much as you want on this if this little thing is clicked. Click. Let's give this thing a background with Control Y. I'm gonna make the background sort of like a bluish thing, like that for water, I don't know. And now we've got ourselves a background. I'll put it underneath. And now let's say I want to change the color here. You could do it two ways. You could do it right here in Illustrator. You could select all and change the fill. But the easier way to do it is just to take a hue saturation and throw it on and start playing with the hue saturations. Okay, that's nice. And again, if I wanted to change these borders, I could come in here, Control A, and here, and here. Make these borders all white and save. This is happening way faster than what I'm used to. Okay, anyway. Next, we go back. The file is now updated. So now I've got this thing that I could zoom in on itself, or better yet, I could make a null. Layer, new, null. And this is going to be my controller. I will control everything. So Control, okay? And I will parent this guy right here. Again, make sure that this has this little thing, it looks like a little sunshine, so that it stays nice and high res as we zoom. Okay, next thing, I'm gonna take the anchor point by holding down Y, and I'm gonna put it over the country I wanna zoom into for now. And I'm gonna hit S for scale and start zooming. And watch what happens. I can zoom as much as I want, and boom, it's like crystal clear. So basically, your animation, P and S, is a matter of now putting two little keyframes, going to where you want to go next, and going over a little bit, or going this way. And you can now animate and maybe zoom out a little bit. Okay? And now you've got yourself a little animation. Okay, you can do that anywhere in the map. It's very simple. It is big, giant Jenkins. What if I want to color in Iraq? There is a very easy way to do this. You could either import Jenkins with all of the layers as compositions, and that's a different workflow. I'm not going to go into that, but it is possible because all the layers are layered out in Illustrator. Right here you can see. Or my favorite thing to do is to, check this out, Control Y, make a new solid, and I'm going to call it Iraq. And this is the color of the thing I'm going to highlight. I'm going to make it some orangey something, and I'm just going to put it over the top, okay? That is Iraq, but check it out. I'm now going to go back into Illustrator. And to be safe, I'm going to hit A to get the direct select tool, which is a tool that really doesn't select doesn't include any of the groupings that could be here. None of this is, it's all pretty cleanly pared down, but I'm gonna grab that, Control C for copy, back to After Effects. Oh, I have to have this selected, Control V for paste, and boom, that's actually a rock. Watch what happens if I scale this sucker up. Scale it up, and now I have a mask that is a rock. Super low res, not for long. Boom. That thing makes it nice and crystal clear. Now, the trick is you want to make sure that this is parented to the same controller so that they're all a part of the same system. So now, during that little move that I did, I want this to animate on. So I'm gonna take T, make a keyframe, and bring it out, and then start it at 0. So it goes from 0 to 100 over time. And you can see that as it goes from left to right, it animates on, okay? Boom. Okay, so that is the basics. This is how I used to do it. I used to make so many videos using this workflow of zooming around, using a null and a big old file and layering stuff on top of it. And there was like 50 or 100 layers all parented to this one controller. And it was pretty nuts. But then I discovered Geo Layers, and more importantly, I could afford Geo Layers. It is expensive, but so incredibly useful. So let's now move on to how we would approach this same thing with Geo Layers, which is really a much more powerful workflow. So far, candidly, 100%, like honestly, the 11th gen Evo processor is killing it. It's actually kind of frustrating because I have, like I'm used to working on these big, expensive, beastly machines. And in some ways this is outpacing them. Like that, what it was doing in Illustrator with the selection stuff, it's almost like, wait, what? I can get over that and keep going. Really cool though, really cool that this little chip has so much power to make these workflows like buttery smooth in such a teeny little thing. So this next workflow is Geo Layers. I'm not gonna go into how Geo Layers works fundamentally. There are loads of wonderful tutorials that Geo Layers itself has put together, and you should go watch those if you're interested in learning the fundamentals of Geo Layers. You'll pick up on some of them by seeing what I'm doing here, but I'm not gonna go step by step. In this next workflow, I'm going to show you how to style a map to exactly how you wanna style it. I'm gonna show you how to set it up with Geo Layers and to link that styling into Geo Layers, to move stuff around, and then to label and do sort of what we did here with a rock, where you can draw a country. All of that is so much easier in Geo Layers. Check it out. I'm gonna make a new comp, and I'm gonna call this comp Map the New Way. First things first, we're gonna pull up Geo Layers. I have it all installed, and I'm gonna go to Extensions. I'm gonna go to Geo Layers. It's gonna power up. So I'm gonna hit the tilde key in the upper left to make this full screen. It just makes it a lot easier for me to see, for you to see, for everyone to see. This is blinking right now because this is where you need to click first. Create a new map comp. A map comp is basically a map that you can style and move around. I'm gonna call this one Iraq map, okay? And it will live within the comp we just made, which was called Mapping the New Way, okay? After I hit next, it's gonna ask me what the style is. You can license some of this data that they have on the Geo Layers site, or you can pick one of their default styles, or you can do what I do, which is go to Mapbox. Mapbox are the people behind a lot of the mobile apps you use, the maps you use for like Uber or Grubhub, I don't know, but like those types of maps. Mapbox makes those. But hack of the world is that you can design your own maps and not use them for an app, but use them in Geo Layers. Check it out. This is called Mapbox Studio, and it is free for you to use for non-commercial purposes. So, new style, come in here, and you can choose one of these pre-baked styles that they have. Let's do outdoors. The beautiful thing about this is you can now customize it. So outdoors is really a nice looking map style. So this is just like a sort of Google Maps. And you can see that as I zoom, different features come on. Like as I just zoomed right now, all of these interstates and their signs came on, all these labels. I don't want all these things. You may, but I don't. I like to clean up my map. So I'm gonna go over to Iraq, which is the place that we are focusing on here. And I'm going to go simply click on a place like Baghdad and say place labels. I'm gonna click it. And I'm gonna say place labels, I actually don't want to see you. So countries, nope. States and provinces, nope. Settlements, nope. Subdivisions, none of it. I'm also seeing these provincial borders, which I don't really want to see. You may want to see those. I don't. So I'm going to hit administrative boundaries. Disputed country boundaries. I don't know if you want those. State and province. Boom. That's what we don't want. Okay. So you can start to see the power of this. We went from a big cluttered design to a super clean, nice design that we can put our own labels on. Once this is in Geo Layers, yes, this is going to be in Geo Layers pretty soon. This is ready for me to bring into After Effects. The way I do that is first hit publish, and then I'm going to get a special code that I'm going to use in After Effects. You go up to share, and warning, this is going to look like black magic what I'm about to do because it's like so buried in these menus. You go to share, you go over to third party, you go here to Cardo, and you grab this API address, copy it, okay? You take this sucker over to here. Do you remember where we were here? We had made the map comp and now it's asking us what kind of style do we want? We want to add a new style and we want to paste it into this URI code. Command V, paste, boom, there's our map. And I'm gonna hit apply. So now I've got this new map. Hold on, I'm gonna actually rename it to outdoor map, okay? I've got that big API code. I'm gonna hit apply, and here it is, outdoor, beautiful, and create. And now it's doing its magic, and it is creating a comp that allows me to see this map comp, but in After Effects. Here's the deal though, you won't see it in high res right away. At first you'll see it sort of like this. These are temporary tiles that it just downloads for you to block out your animation and start moving. Eventually, when you're done, you'll hit finalize and it will download all these high-res tiles as good as you want them. So let's talk about what is going on in here. You have two layers down here. You have the map, which that's the baseline thing. You're never gonna animate the position or scale of this. I'll show you what you do animate. And then you have this anchor. This anchor is the thing that you anchor anything you want to stick on the map. You parent it to this and it will stick. And we'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's just figure out how to move around. The easiest way to move around is just with this thing over here. Zoom out and the map comp zooms out. Zoom in and the map comp zooms in. Drag and the map comp drags, and get ready for the best part. Right click and drag up and you get a tilt. Look at that. Okay, you're starting to see how I make my videos now. This is like, you're probably like seeing how the sausage is made and you're like, oh, that's how he does it. So let's do some keyframes. I'm gonna start here, way back here, and I'm going to zoom out. I want it to start up here and I'm gonna hit this big old, oops, I'm gonna hit this big old keyframe button right here. I'm gonna go forward to, 7 seconds and I'm going to zoom in to Iraq. So I'm just gonna zoom in by scrolling. Okay, zooms in. This isn't finalized, so it'll look better when it's finalized. Let's say I want it to start wide, zoom in to Iraq, wait there for a minute, and then zoom in to a little village in the south of Iraq. So I'm gonna have it wait there for maybe, 4 seconds. And then I am going to look at all of these. These are the keyframes that run Geo Layers. Latitude, which makes it go up and down. Longitude, which makes it go left and right. Zoom, which makes it zoom. Bearing, which, watch, makes it spin. And pitch, which makes it go down. Okay? You can, if you're more comfortable down here with these, you can just keyframe everything down here instead of using this UI. I'm gonna get rid of these. So we zoom in, and I tend to always go right onto the keyframes and make sure there's a keyframe everywhere. It's gonna sit for a little bit, and maybe while it's sitting, I'm gonna have it pitch down just a titch like this. Okay, everything else I'm gonna have sit. And now I want it to zoom into a little village in southern Iraq called Basra. It's not a village, it's a city. It's one of the big cities in Iraq. I could either go find it and try to zoom in, but here's where Geo Layers becomes truly magical. You can search on the internet for addresses, for cities, for even latitude and longitude. And in fact, again, you can always take this guy, hit tilde, and get the full screen here. I'm gonna hit Basra, B-A-S-R-A. Okay, Basra, and there it is. This is Basra in Iraq. It says it right there. This is data scraped from the internet. You can do several things here. You can make a label, which we'll do in a little bit. You can fit view, which means it will take where your camera is or where you're zoomed, and it will zoom you in to Basra. I'm gonna hit that, boom, and now watch what happens when I go back. Hit tilde, and I'm in Basra. And because I was back here, it did all of the latitude and longitude for me to the point where I'm now in Basra. So now I have a zoom from here all the way into Basra. I'm gonna put myself over those keyframes and maybe pitch down just a little bit. Maybe do this bearing a little bit. And maybe what I'll do is I'll take this bearing and I'll bring it out a little bit so it orbits. So this bearing is sort of coming down and orbiting like this. It's a little bit delayed. The more you delay it, the more sort of orbiting happens. This is cool. This is looking really, really cool in a matter of a few minutes. Okay, let's say I want to highlight Iraq, label it, and then zoom into Basra. So, first things first, I am going to try to find a shape of Iraq. Now, you remember how we did that with the Illustrator file and all of that? That was very clunky and sort of handmade. This is a lot smoother. So I'm gonna hit back. It's really important that you hit back, because right now when you're searching the internet, you're in this sort of second layer of the interface. You wanna hit back so you're back to your home. You have your search internet up here, but then you have this hub. This is like your data hub down here. Again, I'm gonna go tilde to make it big. Your data hub is where you can put geodata sets, which are like GeoJSONs. That's a little advanced if you're new to this. But more importantly, an example of a data set is a country, like how a country's shape is. You can go here and add a feature to this data browser. And I want to download features and I want to download countries. So now it's downloading. I now have natural Earth data for every single country in the world. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find Iraq, or I can just filter out right here, Iraq. Boom, there it is. And I'm gonna hit the draw feature, which may be cut off a little bit if your interface is a little bit, you need to sort of scroll to get to it. Now, if I do that, you can either have it animate on, which I don't ever really use. I like to just have it draw on and then I can animate it myself. And boom, there it is. What I love about this is it comes already anchored and like ready to roll. Here it is, Iraq. It's anchored to this anchor null, which is really important. And so now anything I do, it will go with it. Now let's make a label for Iraq generally. You can use the label maker in here, which I'll explore in a minute, but I also just want to show you how I do it with text. So I'm going to hit Control-T to get my text. I'm going to type in Iraq. Now remember, this thing has to be anchored to the Iraq map anchor or it won't scale with us. It'll just stay in the middle like that. Whereas if I do this and I bring it here, everything that you want to stick to the map needs to be anchored. I also need to make it 3D if I want it to respond to some of these, yeah, like that. Okay, see now it's totally stuck to it. Next, let's zoom in to Basra and label Basra. We're gonna zoom in. I'll probably want this orange to sort of fade away while we zoom. So I'm gonna hit T for transparency or opacity. And we're now in Basra. I could either do the text thing that I just did, or a really cool feature is I'm gonna search Basra again, B-A-S-R-A. And instead of having it fit view like I did the first time, I'm going to hit make label or add label, boom. And there it is, Basra. And that Basra right there is responsive. So I could have it as we zoom out, look at that, it scales with the map comp in this really cool dynamic way. You can come here, there's all sorts of things you can do here to make it react a little bit differently. That is labeling. So this next step is the most important in terms of time management. It takes time, and in terms of making sure that your map looks beautiful. So I'm gonna hit finalize. What that's gonna do is it's gonna connect to the server of that Mapbox Studio profile that we made. And it's going to download little JPEGs from the internet onto this machine, and then it's going to arrange them perfectly and put expressions in them and do all this stuff so that it looks really natural to what we animated. It's a really magical process, and it requires good internet or decent internet, and it requires good processing power because it's a lot of calculations happening at once. This machine has a new Wi-Fi chip that should work great for this. It also has the 11th gen Evo processor that hopefully will make this a much smoother process. So I am going to hit finalize and we'll see what happens. Okay. You can see it downloading all these images. It goes on to a part of your hard drive that you can specify, and it is placing them into the right space in the map comp for it to work. It's honestly really amazing. Oh, are we done? We're done. Wow, that was insanely quick. Again, this video is sponsored by Intel. I know, like, I've done this so many times. That was very fast. That was buttery smooth. Whew. Again, I sort of feel like, why have I been like relying on these insanely beefy, expensive machines? When I pitched this idea of like, I'm gonna do my map workflow that usually I do on a big monster machine, I was sort of like, can this little laptop handle that? And it 100% can. It can handle it better than I thought. So I'm very impressed with the 11th gen Evo processor from Intel. And again, that's a totally candid thing to say right now. Like I'm actually reacting to how well it's doing. You can do all sorts of stuff to style this up, color correct, LUTs, whatever you want, but this is the basic heart of my mapping workflow. Let's get this thing rendered out and see what it finally looks like. Now, render times are really important for video people because they can make or break your day. If you have really long render times with these animations, you don't want to render very often. And so you end up just guessing and sort of doing everything in the After Effects and then doing one big render and just like hoping that it works. When you have faster render times, it allows you to output sort of a draft and say like, I think this is pretty close to good. You bring it into Premiere, you time it up, and then if it's wrong or if there's mistakes like there always are, you just go back and you fix them and you render out a new one, and it's like no drama. It's not like you're committing to 3 hours of waiting. Instead, it happens very quickly. So here's the remaining time. As it digests this, it's going from what was 57 minutes, and it is just tanking by the second. This is real time right now, what you're seeing. It turns out, if I go into the log, that took encoding time 6 minutes and 33 seconds to render that big beast. That's awesome. So this was a real experiment. I hadn't actually used this laptop to do this workflow until right here in front of you all, and I'm incredibly impressed with the performance. This is a small little laptop. It fits in something that is a little bigger than a tablet. I mean, look at this. And yet I was able to do my start to finish map workflow, which is fairly processor intensive, on this thing, and it held up just fine. While I had multiple applications open, I had the screen recording software open, all at the same time. The thing that makes this whole process run so smoothly is the 11th gen Evo processor from Intel. This chip is a huge leap forward for Intel and for all processors on the market. It uses AI to actually reduce noise in a really smart way, so you don't have to worry about background noise when you're on an important call. The chip also helps enhance audio to make it sound richer and better. It helps display for gaming and for video editing. No matter how you look at it, whether it's streaming or being productive in the office or editing maps, this chip is a powerhouse, and it enables for much faster workflows, as I just saw right before your eyes. There's a link in my description where you can learn more about the devices that have the Intel 11th gen processor, and you can learn more about just Intel Evo overall. Click that link and it helps support this channel, but it's also a great place to go learn more about this really cool, fast, amazing processor. The first batch of these amazing processors inside laptops are hitting the shelves this holiday season, and if you are someone who's looking for an upgrade in your workflows, this is a fantastic option. Thank you, Intel, for supporting this channel and supporting this video, and allowing me to make a video I've wanted to make for a long time. I've wanted to share this workflow with you all for a long time. A lot more behind the scenes is shared on my Patreon if you want to go over and check that out. Thank you all for being here, and I hope it's a happy holiday season for those celebrating holidays, and a happy new year, and I'll see you soon.